Hi everybody, welcome to Mr. Dyer's Musings. I'm Mr. Dyer, and today we're going to be taking a look at my newest tent. Stay with me. Hi everybody, thank you for joining me today on Mr. Dyer's Musings. I'd like to thank my wife and family for their unconditional support. I'd like to thank you guys, my viewers, for taking the time watching this video. If you like it, please click like. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. We have a ton of historical videos, and we always focus on artifacts and skills with using those artifacts. So if that's your thing, you'll really love this channel. I want to thank my current subscribers and my patrons on Patreon. If you are interested in supporting this channel on Patreon and joining some of those others, I really appreciate it. It keeps the history moving forward. So what I have behind me is one of my holy grails of scouting collectibles, early scouting collectibles. Because starting last year, I decided I wanted to start a new impression. That way my kids could get involved. And we decided that we wanted to stay in the range of the 1920s and the 1930s. In the 1920s, one of the tents that the scouts offered was the Featherweight Tent. Now I looked up the company Featherweight and tried to find some information on them, and I couldn't find anything as far as like where the company originated from. So if you might have some knowledge about that, maybe you live in a town that once had a featherweight canvas or tent shop or outdoor equipment shop, please let me know. I'd love to learn about it. But the Featherweight tent was advertised as ideal tent for scouts and scout leaders. And one thing that really surprised me when I picked this up for the first time in its bag is how light it was. Now I have a World War II military tent, pup tent, so there's two halves that come together, and it's essentially the exact same size, but it's a lot heavier. It's a heavier canvas, but it's pretty hefty. Now this tent, one scout could carry it and they'd be comfortable because it's really not that bad. The canvas is very light. In fact, I'm going to take you inside the tent and we're going to take a look to see the daylight that you can see through. But the Featherweight tent was supposed to be 7 foot long, 5 foot wide, and 3 foot high. Now I'm 6'1", so what that means is that where that pole is and this pole is, my feet or my head is going to stick out. What's really nice is you have this vestibule in the back here, or bell, that can keep your items dry, and your head can get a little bit more space. Same thing down here on the foot end. So let's talk about historical tenting. One thing is this historic canvas, they didn't really treat it. The weave itself was supposed to be tight enough so that even if the water hit, the fibers would expand and it would essentially waterproof itself. Now if you touched the walls after it's wet, then you're going to have a drip. And if you try to trail it down, then all that means is this is going to drip, this is going to drip, and this is going to drip. So waterproofing wasn't absolutely necessary. There were waterproofing methods such as waxing the canvas and other treatments, but the canvas itself, as long as you didn't touch it, it remained pretty waterproof and kept you dry. Now Greenbar Bill, he says in the Patrol Leader's Handbook, the very first edition, he's the one that wrote it, that you want to have air circulation. That was the number one thing about tents, that you don't want to close them off. So early scouting, it was encouraged, as long as the weather was fine, that you leave one of the ends of the tent open. World War I tents in the military, they didn't even have a closure on one end. They had a bell on one. On the other side, it was completely open. So soldiers just had to either get wet or maybe put their poncho on one end, just like Civil War soldiers did with their pup tents. So we're going to take a look at this, and I'm going to show you some of the nuances that I thought is pretty cool. So as you can see, it has the ties, it has the older style tent pegs. that came with it, and these are original tent pegs. You can see it's closed. Now the later models of the Featherweight tent actually had it open, so you could tie it both. And I put the nails in here. The pole didn't have any studs or nails in them. All right, let's go inside and take a look. Now the original Featherweight had the same style of pole, but the pictures only show one metal sleeve, like basically breaking it in half. This one has two. So I don't know if this is a reused World War I folding pole that was then cut down to size, or what the deal is. And you can kind of see where the prior owner kind of beat on it, the metal sleeve, so it doesn't close very tight. All right, let's see. Here's the other pole, and you can kind of see how much daylight shines through this thin canvas. But because of it being so thin, it's really, really light. Now I have no intentions of taking this out in the field on any weekend or any time that's going to rain, just because it's old. And like I said, I've been looking for one of these for a long time. I don't know if I'll ever find another. You see the reinforced top. And I wear size 12 shoes, so that's about 3 foot tall. And you can stake out the sides so you have a little bit more side space. So if you're a side sleeper like me, that'd be nice. Now it came with the bag. Now the bag is not a canvas. The bag is actually a twill that it came with, and one of the advertisements that you find in the catalogs talks about this being used for a pillow. So you can stuff it with leaves or browse or extra clothing, and you can use this as a pillow bag. It's pretty cool. Look at that. All right. So my head is just about 4 inches from the ridge of the tent. Now, if there were 2 grown men staying in this tent, it would be a very, very tight fit. But 2 kids, especially younger kids, it wouldn't be too bad. I'd say I slept in tighter accommodations, but I think personally I'd put my kids in another tent because of the gear that they have and being able to crawl out of the tent and everything in the middle of the night to use a restroom or something. But yeah, this is what I think is the Featherweight tent. And if it's not the actual Featherweight, then it's another brand that has a very similar design. But I'm pretty giddy. It came from the estate of an old scout. He was a World War II vet. So the estate had a bunch of old 1920s and 1930s scouting stuff, and this tent, along with the soldiers' World War II collection that he accumulated in his time of service. So I love this thing. I hope to do a backpacking trip with it, with all my other vintage scouting gear, and live a weekend or so like 1930s Scoutmaster or even Scout. I'm one of those people that never grew up.
So I hope you like this tour of my new acquisition. I was really giddy when I found this, and I got this, and I'm very pleased. So if you like the video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing, helping this channel grow. Check out our Patreon page, and if you have something to throw that way to keep the history coming, it's always sincerely appreciated. Like I said, I've got a ton more videos to do. I'm still trying to work my way around the belt of things that scouts would carry on their belts. That was a suggestion that one of you guys gave me. But when I got this tent, I had to do it. You know, I was just too excited. And also, today was a really nice day weather-wise. And like I said, I don't want to set it up when it's too wet. Here in Ohio, we've had a spell of very rainy weather, and I don't know when the next time I'd be able to actually get out to set this thing up in really nice weather. So, hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones, and I will catch you later. Take care.